Hello dear learners. After this today's video, you will be able to understand the concept of sustainable development. You will know about the history of sustainable development. You will understand development of the sustainable societies and the issues related with it. Dear learners, as indicated by World Commission on Environment and Development, sustainable development is addressing present needs and openings without imperiling the trustworthiness of the planetary life bolsters base the environment and reducing its capacity to accommodate requirements, openings, and personal satisfactions later on. Sustainable development is a perplexing idea within excess of one's understanding and thus in excess of one arrangement of standards. In a prior point of view, development suggested a procedure, its key target being proceeded with financial development. Since the mid-1960s, development has likewise been viewed as a technique for enhancing the personal satisfaction and the dependability of the economy. Its objective has been accomplishing a condition, the finish of a procedure. At the same time, there emerged the idea of sustainable environments, an idea which is basically preservationist and may suggest kind guided change. In this manner, the implication of sustainable development have advanced after some time and its definition change with how its procedures and objects are comprehended. The subjects of sustainable development have advanced from a past in which maintainability was hopefully thought to be a corresponding of development, the non-appearance of which was stagnations and decay. Brief history of sustainable development. In spite of the fact that sustainable development believing in generally perceived to have its birthplaces in the 1972 United Nations Conference on the Human Environment, sustainable development as an idea assembled force following the 1987 Brundtland Report, Our Common Future, and the 1998-92 UN Conference on Environment and Development, otherwise called the Earth Summit. Brundtland Commission distributed its report titled Our Common Future with an end goal to interface the issues of economic development and environmental soundness. In doing as such, this report gave the referred to meaning of sustainable development as, quote, development that addresses the issues of the present without bargaining the capacity of the future ages to address their own particular issues, I unquote. Countries have moved towards the usage of these market-based systems to discuss the entire expenses of contamination and guarantee long-haul security of the environment. At the end of the day, to guarantee sustainable development, out of the blue, the Brundtland report they presented the requirement for the integration of economic development, environmental protection, and social equity and inclusion. The primary result of the Earth Summit were the Rio Declaration, which perceived the privileges of states to economic and social development and contained 27 principles of sustainable development. They include the outstanding precautionary and polluter pay principles, underwriting of the forest principles, which perceived the significance of the woods for economic and social development, indigenous groups, biodiversity, and keeping up ecological procedures. The marking of the Convention on Biological Diversity and the Framework Convention on Climate Change and Local Agenda 21 saw local specialist procedures created to empower the sustainable development of groups. Since the Earth Summit, the United Nations has made an extensive variety of projects, institutions, and international concurrences with the point of accomplishing worldwide sustainable development. A rundown of real assertions and conventions since 1992 is accessible on the United Nations Sustainable Development Knowledge Platform. The hugest milestone in this excursion had been 1993. The creation of the Commission for Sustainable Development to monitor and advance the implementation of Agenda 21. 1997, Earth Summit Plus 5, which checked on and re-established sense of duty regarding implementation of Agenda 21. 2000, Millennium Summit in New York, which brought about the United Nations Millennium Declaration and arrangement of focuses to be accomplished by 2015 that included environmental portability, the eradication of extraordinary destitution and fairness for, like we can say, ladies, now known as Millennium Development Goals. Development for Sustainable Society. In spite of the fact that there are attributions to psychological, social, or moral development, the common term most often infer unspecified development. Development is a concept of numerous implications. For instance, material, subjective, economic, exponential, scholarly, recurrent, self-renewing, threatening, and experiential. Insofar as development suggests and requires some shape and type of continuing development, the concept of sustainability of development ends up important. For instance, if all types of development rely on continuous functioning of the life emotionally supportive network to the regular habitat, air, water, soil, and living creature, then the concept of development and development require the modifier of sustainability. Since, be that as it may be, the applicable parameters of life on Earth are limited, not all types of development are uncertainly unsustainable. Without sensible, achievable objectives, the concept of sustainability may offer the possibility of a continuing expansion of present economic and mechanical frameworks. Without genuine respect to extreme limitations such as the personal satisfaction, the accessibility of normal assets, or the expenses of biological community and institutional support or restoration. The World Commission on Environment and Development, 1987, they announced a sustainable society to be one that addresses the issues of the present without bargaining the capacity of the future generation to address their own particular issues. Sustainable development may mean supporting a procedure, not a condition. Yet, in a few contexts, sustainability is summoned to protect a relative existing conditions or enduring state condition regardless of whether it be of antiquated timberland, topsoil, or jeopardized species. Here let's have a look on the principle of sustainable tourism. The target of sustainable tourism development is to execute all territories of sustainable development, which we have studied, like environmental, economy, social issues. In tourism, tourism strategizes singularly focusing on the earth can't claim to be sustainable. Functioning regular habitat and scene, and in addition, ecological administration frameworks are requirements for the tourism without bounds, both in country fringe zones and in seriously utilized visitor goals. Measures to secure nature and the earth are not systems that forestall monetary pickups, but rather forward-looking methodologies for picture fabricating that can even prompt financial development. Legislative measures, intentional impetuses, and controlling measures bolster terrestrial points. Tourism approaches without bounds need to go up against natural and social issues of mass tourism. executing authoritative measures, and in addition, deliberate directing and control instruments. Administration framework that consider ecological and social factors comprehensively must be produced for and connected in organizations, groups, and locales. Moreover, the estimation of framework and environmental measures for locals must be checked on. In seriously utilized territories, hoteliers are regularly stood up to with obligations as a result of high rivalry and lessening in overnight remains. The picture of destination is described without anyone else input decided social elements. The point is to painstakingly integrate tourism into local culture and not to coordinate culture into tourism. The correct level of tourism power is an essential for transport of genuine culture and self-assurance of social advancement. Moreover, locals should be given the chance to keep their customs for guests as well as live family culture and ceremonies to the prohibition of outsiders. Great working conditions and social fulfillment of the populace will get quality tourism. Quality in tourism is dictated by nature of administration. Consequently, changes of the instruction level of those working in tourism, including tourism basic substance learning for the setup of a few well springs of which and change of the social assurance of those utilized in the tourism businesses are of most extreme significance. The high extent of women having occasional joblessness must be considered and require particular authoritative and deliberate measures. Dimensions of sustainable tourism. There are three essential dimensions of sustainable tourism. One is ecological. Ecologically sustainable tourism lowly affect characteristic assets, especially in secured zones. It limits harm to nature. For example, vegetation, fauna, living species, water, living marine resources, vitality utilized, defilement, and in a perfect world tries to profit the earth. Socially, it does not hurt the social structure or culture of a community where it is found. Rather, it regards local societies and conventions. It includes partners or stakeholders such as people, groups, destination managers, government organizations in all periods of arranging, advancement, and checking, and instructs partners about their parts. Economically, it adds to the monetary prosperity of the community, creating sustainable and even handed economic benefits for local people and whatever number different partners as could reasonably be expected. It benefits proprietors, workers, and neighbors. It does not just start and after that quickly pass on in view of poor business homes. Sustainable tourism and local community. For local inhabitants, tourism has a financial effect as well as touches their own lives. Tourism influences their ways of life, conventions, and societies, and in addition, their work. Not at all like different players in the tourism business. Must local community manage tourism regardless of whether they decide to. Some rustic groups that were once tranquil and quiet are getting themselves attacked by the global sightseer, the greater part of who are simply going through or not remaining to meet local inhabitants. Inhabitants have blended responses to the interruption. Some need nothing to do with sightseers. Others are interested by the business openings, Whatever their underlying response, local inhabitants are frequently caught off guard for tourism's requests. They regularly can't contend with the capable tourism industry and does not comprehend the wants and the conduct of savagely autonomous explorers who need to find new zones. Community individuals assume a basic part in tourism. Opportunities available for a local community. They may assume numerous immediate parts in tourism businesses, including, we can say, the renting their area for improvement, working as infrequent, low maintenance or full-time staff for private visit administrator, providing administrations to private administrator, for example, sustenance guides, transportation, lodging, forming joint endeavors with the private visit administrators who more often than not give showcasing, coordination and bilingual aids, while the community gives generally benefits. Strategic sustainable development. Sustainability has been and remains a key watchword in the present circumstances. It worried about social, financial, natural, and authoritative goals to different settings. There are regularly having contrasting perspectives of what is or is excluded in the sustainability issues. These perspectives ought to be both adequate and justifiable. It is the heading of the movement that is imperative and the result for our groups and at last the nature of our surroundings, monetary achievements and our national prosperity. The opening and the difficulties that sustainability presents are not going to decrease. And it is important that all parties are set up for how it impacts on their association and exercise through the development of far-reaching sustainability processes. Dear learners, let's have a look on aims and objective of strategic sustainable development. The expression sustainable development, it implies development that addresses the issues of the present without bargaining the capacity of the future ages to address their own issues. Sustainable development depends on a long-haul approach, which considers the inseparable idea of the natural, social, and financial measurement of development exercises. Besides, sustainable development as a term initially acquainted with society in 1987 by the Brundtland Commission in their very popular report titled, as we have already discussed, Our Common Future. It is tied with the guaranteeing our activities address the issue of the present without trading off the capacity of the future ages to address their own issues. The concept of this sustainable strategic development is a method for making arrangement for sustainability that tends to these issues in a thorough, important and orderly way. Strategic sustainable development is in effect always tried and enhanced through participation between the scholastic fields and on-screen characters applying the instruments and ideas. Strategic sustainable development intends to address the main drivers and rule that are bringing about the ebb and flow precise decrease in the capability of the earth framework. Fundamentally, this definition demonstrating the accompanying societal and humankind parts of sustainable development. A society in which the subject's personal satisfaction is and remains a reality. A capable, inventive society ready to exceed expectations in the greater part of its accomplishment. A society in view of concordance between financial essentialness, ecological quality, and social value. A such society propelled by an administration whose authority moves and aids towards this vision. What can be the points of considerations of sustainable development or strategic sustainable development? Dear learners, the accompanying are the 9 points of consideration in this. 1. Inform, influence, mindful to instruct and develop. 2. Reduce and oversee dangers to enhance well-being, security and nature. 3. Produce and expand capability. 4. Increase monetary proficiency. 5. Practice coordinated sustainable land utilize and development. 6. Preserve and offer the aggregate legacy. 7. Promote social contribution. If we talk about the strategic decisions, we can say that for more than 20 years, countries over the world have perceived the need to accomplish development that addresses the issue of the present without a trading of the capacity of future generation. Yet unsustainable development proceed a space over every one of the, we can say, the place. Government and common society can be that, and it may impact basic leadership from government wanting to singular sharper decisions for sustainable development by a wide assortment of means, quite by bringing issues to light and on account of government forcing limitations and giving motivations. The 3 things engaged with the strategic basic leadership are constraint, incentives and awareness. Limitations on basic leadership incorporate directions that guide the farthest point development alternatives. For example, outflow measures, allowing, arrive, utilize controls and substance bans. Enactment may likewise give impetus towards sustainable development and distinctive from unsustainable development by affecting markets with financial instruments including carbon charges, advertise instruments and tax reductions for greener development choices. For example, like wind wrenches and products like low emission vehicles. Markets, they may act for sustainable development yet unregulated for the most parts support unsustainable utilization. Poorly considered enactment and financial instruments can in like manner support unsustainable development ways, for instance by advancing unsustainable regular asset utilize. Dear learners, now the question is about sustainability and the development principles. So the first is standards of sustainability. Sustainable development can be thought of an amusement in which world society is meaning to accomplish. Sustainability. Characterizing sustainability in wording fundamental standards as opposed to particular situations direct the rounds of sustainable development to a mutual vision of a sustainable future, while not restricting the inventive and dynamic intents to touch base there. To be valuable, it is recommended that standards for sustainability ought to be based on deductively endless supply of the world, necessary to accomplish sustainability, sufficient to cover all parts of sustainability, concrete enough to direct activities and critical thinking, and mutually selective to encourage appreciation and observing. 4 fundamental sustainability principles created through a logical accord building process. They center on key upstream framework infringement that prompt the side so as to advance incentiveness inside essential imperatives the sustainability principles are expressed in the negative as far as what can and can't happen in a sustainable society. In a sustainable society, nature is not liable to deliberately expanding. 1. Concentration of substances removed from Earth's interior. 2. Concentrations of substances created by society. 3. Degradation by physical means and in that society. 4. People are not subjected to conditions that methodologically undermine their ability to address their issues. Dear learners, to summarize, we can say the test of sustainable development is to make utilization of tourism's certain effects improving and diverting the advantages into the correct directions, and to keep away from or elevate or negative effects beyond many would consider possible. Alluding to the distinctive normal social and economic assets, tourism is influencing different international organizations, taking into consideration the principal sanctions, codes, and criteria for sustainability in tourism. There is an amazingly various scope of ecologies, societies, and circumstances over the planet, and an alternative arrangement of difficulties in very territory. The worldwide development towards sustainability thus needed to happen at the same time, hopefully, and furthermore fitting to the necessities of every area. The central idea of strategic sustainable development are broadly material, and they shape a structure for comprehension, dissecting and acting strategically in any arranging circumstances. The sustainable tourism development utilizes unbiased basic leadership system in light of logical rules that were created through an accord procedure inside the universal academic group. And believe me that sustainable tourism development or sustainable tourism is a very sellable idea. Thank you very much.